Alright, let's continue with the Form 6 recap. Today is August 5th, but it's probably going to be, I don't know how long will I take to, upload this video. It's going to be a long time later because I still haven't uploaded Form 3 recap yet, so anyways, I need to speak faster because I realized that it's already been 1 hour and 10 minutes into the video, so I need to speak faster. So again, November 11th, we have the gunshots, we have the arrests, and we have Miss Hershey grabbing my diary, seeing that it's crazy, and now there are several people, including, this is my diary, by the way, it's priced. So the people who asked me to show them my diary is Anne asked to read my diary, AJ asked, Zara asked, Natalie asked, Tom asked, and everyone's just really interested. And yeah. Anyways, afterwards, we have the anti-mask law, which is even crazier well, not even crazier, but it's still very, very, very crazy. So the day was, shoot, what day was it? The day was, it was only 2 days after November 11th. It was November 13th when the government decided to pass another really, really controversial law, and that is the anti-mask law, where we cannot wear masks in public unless we're obviously sick. With this law, the government is afraid that all the youngsters, all the teenagers and adolescents in Hong Kong will come out to the streets and riot and destroy everything, which in fact wouldn't be the case. And there will be people fighting and destroying things on the streets, but not all of them, of course. So the government was so paranoid. On that day, all the classes in school were canceled, and the teachers, they had to force us to go back home. It was really intense. So at first, me and a bunch of people, we stood in protest behind the school gates once again. We just stood there. We said some slogans, and everyone's there. Wendy was there. Wendy's safe. Mary wasn't there for some reason. And then anyways, afterwards, all of us, not all people went to school, but most people went to school anyways, and we were just sitting in the classroom, just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And when we were waiting, me, Tom, Natalie, and Zara, we chatted a lot, and it was actually a very awesome, wholesome chat. So we talked a lot about everything. We talked about No Nut November, and even girls, they also participate in No Nut November, and I'm not gonna reveal who failed, but I know a particular girl who failed because she's just she just can't hold it in her. Okay. But that's basically it. And also at the same time, what happened in November is that I opened up to Tom, Grant, and Oliver. So what happened was that I can't hold it in anymore because I want to speak to Mary, and I also want more friends, and me being so lonely and not being able to express myself, this actually really hurts. This is really it's not a good feeling. So I really want to find someone to speak to that is not Natalie, because Natalie, she doesn't care. If you tell her your feelings, she's gonna be like, oh, and then she would just walk away. That is how Natalie is. I want to talk to someone who actually cares and who actually wants to listen. So I spoke to Grant, and I don't even know why. I guess At that point, Natalie and Grant, they were pretty close to one another because they sit next to one another in a calculus class, so they began to speak to one another, they chat a lot. So I spoke to Grant, and I told Grant that I like Mary. And at first I actually told Tom first, because I began to realize that Tom is actually a really nice dude, even though on the surface he's very mean. And in Form 5, again, Tom was really mean towards me and Nick, constantly telling us to, just go away, idiots. But actually, in the inside, Tom is actually really nice, and Tom didn't even know that I actually have depth. Like, before I and Tom sat beside one another, Tom was like, "What? I'm gonna sit beside me? That's boring. We have nothing to talk about." And as it turns out, we actually have a lot to talk about. We talk about secrets, we talk about our thoughts on things, drama, secret, gossip, and we have gained each other's trust, which is really, really nice. So I actually told Tom that I really wanted to speak to someone, and Tom's like, "Is it in this class?" And I'm like, "Nope." And Tom's like, "It's Mary." It's actually pretty obvious that I like Mary, if you're observant, because I always stare at Mary. If Mary is within my eyesight, I will always look at her. And it's not even my fault, okay? It's like, I just naturally want to look at Mary. So, and Mary and I, we have a lot of eye contact, like a lot. And it's weird because we would always look at each other for a second and then we would just look away. But it's not, but I feel like Mary's not looking at me intentionally. Mary just likes to look around, but I always look at her and it's just very strange. Anyways, I told Tom about this, and I and Tom, we began to talk about this, and I'm really happy that I opened up. Like, originally I really wanted to hide from people, like my feelings and stuff. So I told Tom, I told Grant, and at the end I told Oliver. I told Oliver that I like Mary and I want to speak to her, and I asked Oliver if he can help me. At the end, Oliver didn't really help me, but Oliver's still really nice about it. I'll talk about that later. Anyways, afterwards, after November 13th, we stayed at home for 6 days. School got canceled for 6 days because of political reasons, which is insane. Anyways, also what happened in November is that one day after PE class, I got super sad and worried and scared again, and I started to shake, I started to breathe irregularly. I tried to, grab my school bag, and then I suddenly scratched my hand against my table, and the corner of the table, and oh shit, what the fuck? I just realized that I have a paper cut. I only noticed this now. Anyways, I injured myself right here, and it was bleeding. I was like, oh fuck, not again. And all at the same time, Edward was playing volleyball with the rest of Potato Gang, and someone kicked the ball towards his head, smashed his glasses, and injured his eye. And people were like, oh my god, does anyone have a band-aid? Does anyone have a band-aid? Yes. And I was gonna open up my band-aid to, for myself, but Edward, everyone's just around Edward, like, someone help Edward, someone help out. So I gave my band-aid to Edward, and and then I'm like, oh, whatever, I have a spare band-aid for myself too, and then Pink saw that I gave my own band-aid to Edward when I myself was injured, and Pink is like, oh, do you want me to help you stick the band-aid? And I'm like, okay. So Pink actually helped me stick the band-aid onto my finger. Yes, so that's one thing. The other thing is that by the end of November, I actually did the IELTs, which is an all-English test, which is not that difficult. I didn't prepare for it all that much. I didn't study. I did read like some IELTs writings, but I didn't really prepare for that much. And at the end, I got an 8 out of 9 in IELTs, which is actually pretty nice. For some reason, my speaking score wasn't that high, but my reading is the highest for some damn reason. So there's that. And after IELTs, people actually got interested, like, oh, how much did you get in IELTs? Because Tyrus got a 9 out of 9. And Ernest asked me, like, oh, how much did you get? And then Selena asked me, like, oh, how much did you get? And one time Selena asked, because I have an IELTs book, and Selena's like, oh, can I borrow your IELTs book? And I said, sure. So I lent it to her, and it wasn't until like April 2020 until like she gives it back to me. Yeah. Anyways, moving over, we have December, and the first huge thing about me is, about what happened to me is the graduation trip things, because we are about to graduate, and traditionally we would have graduation trips. Now, this is not a school activity thing, like the school is not going to organize the trips for us. We as friends, we will organize the trip. It's all us, you know. And so different groups of friends will go to different places. Carrot Gang, aka Natalie, Zara, Anne, and Olivia, they originally planned to go to Korea, South Korea, that is, of course. And a lot of people want to go to Japan, Tokyo. Leo, Pink, Hans, Marty, Tom, they all wanted to go to Tokyo, and they were already planning the Airbnb, the flight tickets, tourist attractions, where to go, what to eat, and the money issues and all that. And I was like, wow, I really want to have fun with my friends too. So I asked if I can join Leo and Pink to go to Tokyo, because I know that at that point, Natalie and I, while we are friends, Natalie ultimately belongs to Carrot Gang. And if I can pick a gang, I would definitely pick Bean Gang, because I and Leo and Pink are friends. I and Nick are friends. I and Tom were pretty close with one another. So I was like, oh, I will follow Bean Gang to Tokyo. So I asked Tom, and Tom's like, I gotta ask Hans. And Hans is like, nope, too late, too late. And even so, people like Hector and AJ wouldn't like me. They don't like to speak to me, and they think I'm a dumbass. But yet they include Nick in their group for some reason. So I got really, really pissed and upset. I kept on asking them, like begging them, please, can I join? But I thought, you know what? It's pointless. It's useless. Because if they are so mean to me and I don't get along with people like Hans and Hector, then it's not going to be a fun trip. It's just going to be very awkward for me. If it's just me, Leo, and Pink, we can do totally fine. So at the end, I just gave up, and I have no graduation trip. And I'm one of the 3 people who don't have graduation trips planned. Derek didn't, because Derek didn't want to, and Betsy didn't, because Betsy, she doesn't have any friends anymore. So Betsy originally is with Scooby, but Scooby began to not like her, I guess. So Betsy is alone, and Betsy wanted to go to Mongolia for some reason, and I also want to go to Mongolia, you know, but I can't speak Russian. I think if I speak Russian, it's going to benefit me so much more. And also, people don't care about Russia. They want to go to Japan, they want to go to Taiwan, they want to go to South Korea, or maybe Thailand. But Mongolia, that's a little weird. That's a little weird. But at the end, I didn't have a graduation trip planned. I gave up trying to ask Bean Gang if I can follow them to Tokyo. So at the end, I just gave up. Which is a good thing, because I didn't pay for anything. I didn't pay for flight tickets or Airbnb money or anything. And turns out all the graduation trips will be canceled because of the virus. Up next, we have one of the biggest incidents in Form 6 for me, and that is Grant and Natalie. Now, what happened is that on December 7th, it was a Saturday, me, Natalie, Grant, and a lot of other physics students, we had to go back to school to have an extra physics class. So I thought, oh, Natalie and Grant are together because they're friends, I guess. But it was beginning to be like, okay, it's a little weird. Why are they're really close to one another for some reason? So Anyways, me, Natalie, and Grant, we met up and we had breakfast together, and we had breakfast at McDonald's, which is really lame, and then we ran all the way to school, and we entered the school, and that's it. After the physics class, so Oliver was there, but Suki and Selena doesn't study physics. Selena studies economics, but Suki studies physics, and Suki wasn't there. And I texted Suki like, wait, why aren't you here? And Suki is like, I'm busy. So at the end, I and Grant and Natalie, we were like, yeah, we want to hang out more. We don't want to go back home. And Oliver's close to Grant, so at the end, me, Natalie, and Grant, we follow Oliver to his apartment, the drug factory. And what happened was that it was completely empty. It was a pretty small, cheap apartment, there were no one. And Oliver opened a can of beer, and we all shared the can of beer, except me, because I don't drink alcohol, but everyone already does, because I'm a child. But I did get a small cup and drank a little bit at the end. Anyways, Grant and Natalie, they drank a lot. Natalie didn't drink a lot. Natalie drank a little bit, but she was already drunk. So Grant and Natalie, they became drunk. They were on Oliver's bed. They laid on Oliver's bed, and they started giggling, laughing, saying nonsense. They were like, "Oh, I'm so lighthearted. Oh, I feel hot-headed, like my head feels hot-headed. Get it?" And then both Natalie and Grant, they were just drunk. Yeah. And they began to like hug one another, sleep with one another, and it was really awkward. At one point, Natalie's like, I want to drink more, and usually I don't like to touch people, especially girls, because I'm afraid. But the only two conscious person is me and Oliver tried to stop Grant, and I have to try to stop Natalie, so I have to hold her shoulders and pull her away from the can of beer to stop her from drinking further. And they were so drunk, Oliver had to call Kingsley for help. Kingsley went up to Oliver's apartment and escorted Natalie and Grant away. And at that point, it was already nighttime. We did not eat lunch. That was a really strange incident. But on the next Monday, Natalie finally revealed to me. Natalie was like, you didn't notice anything different? I'm like, wait, what did you and Grant did, like, yesterday? And Natalie's like, well, you're getting there. And then Natalie revealed that she and Grant are dating. Now, this really pisses me off. If this is Natalie's third boyfriend, I wouldn't be as pissed. Like, oh, well, everyone's got to live a life. This is her sixth, technically fifth, because one of them is a repeat, but sixth. I was like, what the fuck? I was absolutely shocked. I got really, really angry. I don't know why. Again, I don't hate Grant or Natalie, but it was just like, come on. At that point, and still, right now, currently, I have dated zero person. I've never dated anyone before in my life so far. And I'm not ashamed to admit this. Because I'm a loser and I've already accepted that fact. I have never dated a single person in my life. And Natalie's already on her sixth. And that's kind of upsetting. And also given the fact that, now again, I am not interested in Natalie at all. But out of all people around Natalie, she had to choose Grant, who is the newest friend, the newest addition in her life. Like, she's pretty impulsive, don't you think? So I made a very huge video where I just talk about my feelings and thoughts on this, and it was really shocking. It was really, really, really shocking. I got really, really angry. I ranted. I want to cry, and I just didn't speak to Natalie for a couple days after that again, and everyone's shocked. On December 10th, so Kingsley was the first person to know that they're dating, and I'm the second person to know. And then more and more people know, and originally Anne was like, oh, I don't know, right? But I actually know. And Anne's like, wait, you know? So, yeah, there's that. All at the same time, news came to me that my elementary school classmate had passed away. And that's really upsetting. And there's one other elementary school classmate that was in the same class as I was, and he's in 5C, so he's in 6C anyways, so I spoke to him, and we haven't spoken to one another for 5 years. I spoke to him and I said, oh, do you know about this? And he's like, yeah, I've heard. And then he's like, oh, will you go to the funeral? And I said, yeah. And then he's like, okay, I'll see you there. And he didn't go, of course. But there's that. Up next, Topher versus Grant. Another huge thing that happened because Topher is Natalie's ex-boyfriend, kinda. And Topher loves Natalie. Topher wants to make Natalie his sex slave. Topher wants to rape her. So, Topher was jealous. But he had to find an excuse, you know? So what happened was that because before Grant and Natalie became a thing, Grant was actually originally dating Anne, kinda. Like, they dated for a little bit, but then Anne is like, screw it, and then they broke up again. So Topher and Anne, they began to be close to one another. They spoke to one another for some reason. So suddenly, apparently Anne has a secret, and apparently it's out. It's leaked. Cat's out of the bag. And Topher thought that Grant is the person who leaked Anne's secret. So Topher yelled at Grant, and they almost got into a fight, and then everyone pulled them apart, like, no fighting, no fucking fighting, no fucking fighting. And like, fights can happen in high school, but in Hong Kong, we're classy enough to stop them, because we're actually all a bunch of pacifists. Unless when it comes to politics. So anyways, Natalie went insane again. She sobbed, she cried, and everyone's like, oh my god, Natalie's crying, she's about to kill everyone. Like, people are like, oh my god, she's crying, and I'm like, it's normal. She's always been like this. And then Natalie suddenly stood up and went to Grant, and I immediately know what Natalie's thinking. There is a pair of scissors in Grant's pencil case. And then I told Grant to hide your pencil case, hide your pencil case. And it was already too late. Natalie grabbed the pencil case and grabbed a pair of scissors and stormed out of the classroom and ran towards the bathroom. And then I was like, Zara, go after her. Like, at that point, I'm ordering people to do things. And Zara's like, what? What's going on? And I'm like, she's about to cut herself. Can't you see? Use your brain. Go after her now. So, at the end, Zara went after her. Pink also. And Natalie came back. And then the teachers came. Teacher heard about this. And a couple of teachers came, like, tell me what happened. Please, I need to help Natalie. Like, it became a huge thing. And at that point, I'm kind of pissed, because why do so much people care about Natalie? Why? So at the end, Natalie didn't even cut herself. When she returned to class, it was a chemistry class, she's like, ha ha ha, everything's fine again, okay, that was nothing, blah blah blah. And I'm like, bruh, what the fuck? Every single person in the entire form, okay, that's an exaggeration, but a lot of the teachers, all of our students in the class, we were all like, oh my gosh, Natalie, help her, stop her, she's going crazy, she's gonna kill people. And then I saw that, and I saw that a lot of people care about Natalie. Natalie can be a little bit sad, and everyone's gonna care about her. I can be very, very, very fucking sad, and no one's gonna care. And I began to feel upset. I wanted to cry. and I told Zara about how I feel, and then I left with Pink and Leo. I told Pink that, why doesn't anyone care about me? And then Pink's like, I get that feeling too, because Pink always feels sad, and she doesn't get as much care as Natalie does. There's that. Moving over, we have December 20th. That is Christmas Day, and that is victory. If you go through my school update videos, you'll see that one of my videos says victory, because indeed I've won. I've won against social fear. What happened was that before the Christmas Day, because every time in Christmas party day, all classes are canceled. We're just gonna party and watch people sing and dance. That's it. And we can wear our own clothes this time. We can choose the clothes we wear, and we can, you know, choose what we wear. Of course, we can't go there naked or be in a swimsuit or have swear words on the shirt or anything political. That's against the rules. But we can choose what we wear to school, which only happens once in a year. So I chose a pretty nice gray suit, you know, like a detective and all. So I went to school, and my objective is speak to Mary, because this day is the last school day in the 2010s for me, and I'm like, if I don't speak to Mary today, I will have a very, very terrible Christmas break, which is a very depressing Christmas break. I want to speak to Mary. So when I was outside the school, I saw Mary, and I was like, oh, I want to speak to her now, but okay, this is a little awkward. Okay, so maybe later, maybe I'll speak to her later. And I didn't know if I get the chance again, so I was actually very, very nervous until after the singing and dancing competition ended, and it sucked. They all sucked, by the way. And we were waiting for the food to come, which never happened actually, because there was some error, some sort of error happened, and I'll talk about that later. Anyways, and everyone's just sort of hanging out and stuff, and I'm like, maybe people are taking photos now, because usually when we wear our own clothes, we take photos, and we like to do that during Christmas party day. And it's also one of those rare days where we can take out our phone and the teacher doesn't care. But we have cameras and stuff. Like, people actually bring like professional cameras to school just to take photos and stuff, like Adam and Topher. So at first I and Nick were like, because Nick was kind of friends with Anthony and Tyrus from B class. Kind of friends, not that close. So Nick was like, oh, let's go down. And I'm like, oh, sure, let's go down. We went down, and we didn't see Tyrus or Anthony, and Nick is like, whatever, I'll go back to the classroom and wait for the food. And Nick's like, come on. And I'm like, actually, I want to go further. So I went one level down, and I saw Mary and Oliver. They were taking photos with some other people, and I just stood there, and my heart began to race, because I know that this is the moment. This is the moment. I cannot fuck it up. And I was so afraid. I'm like, okay, maybe, like, I hesitated. But at the end, after Mary and another person took a photo, Mary was about to walk back into her classroom, and I said, hey. Mary turned and looked, and that's when I know there is no turning back. I've already started the conversation. I can't be like, never mind. That would be awkward. So I told her, on October 24th, I wanted to say happy birthday to you, but I didn't. And I think she touched my shoulder or something, but at that point my mind was blank. There is nothing around me. I'm so focused on the lines that I've rehearsed like 100 times already. And Mary's like, oh, that's okay. And then suddenly Mary said, do you want to take a photo with me? I was like, sure. And inside me, I was like, yes, yes, yes. So I was so fucking happy. And we did take a photo together. And and it took me like an entire week to get the photo back. But it was such a great moment. Mary didn't say anything else, and I don't think Mary took the photo with me because she likes me or anything. It's because she likes to take photos with people. She likes photos, okay? That's why she's taking photo with me. It has nothing to do with me, but still, it was a great moment. I went back to the classroom, I hugged people, shook their hands. I'm like, I won. And on that day, I made a 40-second long video, and yeah. Anyways, afterwards, I met up with Cedric, and originally I wanted to, because because people have friends, okay? So after the Christmas party, they're not just gonna go home and sleep. They're gonna go with their friends and have dinner together. At first, Natalie, Tyrus, and Idris, and Cedric, they were going to have dinner together. And I was like, oh, please, can I come? Can I come? And Natalie's like, nope, 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 nope. I asked Tyrus myself, and Tyrus is like, nah. So that's a no, of course. So at the end, I asked Nick if I could go to his place, because apparently Nick and some people in the Bean Gang, including Leo and Pink, they're all having a hot pot dinner at Nick's place. I asked Nick, can I go? And Nick at first is like, no, no, no. But at the end, it's a yes. So at the end, and then Cedric, for some reason, Cedric didn't go to Tyrus's place for dinner, even though they eventually did meet up, but not on that day. Instead, Cedric followed me to Leo and Pink, with Leo and Pink to Nick's place, and we had hot pot together, and it was a great day. In fact, that day was my favorite day of 2019. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Anyways, fast forward to the second half of Form 6, or what's supposed to be the second half. January 2020. On January 6th, news came by that one sick person from Wuhan, who may be carrying the second SARS 2.0, has arrived in Hong Kong. And that was January 6th. And we were all like, oh my god. So we began to wear masks and stuff, and we began to be super hygiene, and we had like alcohol, and we clean everything. Like, we began to be very paranoid. Like, oh my god, it's SARS 2.0, because in the year 2003, there was SARS. And that is why I spent a lot of my childhood at my home, not doing anything, because there was SARS. And so we're like, oh my god, it's SARS 2.0, oh my god. And then later on, it's coronavirus. It has coined a different name. And yeah, so it was January 6th when it started to happen for Hong Kong. Anyways, January 1st, me, Tyrus, Cedric, we protested again. So it wasn't the first time. Me, Cedric, Tyrus, we also protested on August 18th, 2019, which is a lot of fun, because we walked all the way from a district to another district, and it was crazy. It was tiring, but it was a lot of fun. It was dirty. It was a nightmare, but it was a lot of fun. January 1st, it's a totally different story. It was so crowded. We were stuck in a park for a few hours, and then we had to run back home, and then I lost my wallet, and it was a terrible, terrible, terrible experience. And I tried to film, but a couple times people actually stopped me from filming, because it's nighttime, it's wartime. So instead of peacefully protesting, people are going to start, going to the streets and actually fight the cops, like combat fight, So we had to rush back home, because otherwise we would be in great danger. I mean, at one point I heard, so me, Tyrus, and Cedric, we escaped up a mountain and down a mountain, and on my way I dropped my wallet. So I have to walk back up and walk back down and check, and my wallet is not found. And still, till this day, it is not found. And I lost many things. Movie tickets, and also the birthday sign that in Form 3, Linda, Jordana, and Cedric, they bought me a birthday cake. That sign, it's gone. So yeah, it was a nightmare, and at the end I heard like a someone's outside my room right now, and I don't like it. I heard tear gas, and it was like firework. And outside Starbucks, the windows, they're all smashed, and glass, they're all over the floor. It was pretty intense. But yeah, it was a nightmare, and it was one of the worst days of the year so far. Up next, we have New Tofu Gang. So what happened was that me, Grant, Natalie, and Oliver, we started to hang out more and more and more. And one day, we all went to Grant's apartment, and we studied for our exam. And it was at the end we didn't study. Duh. For the most part, it's just Grant and Natalie hugging each other and humping while wearing clothes, and me and Oliver outside of Grant's bedroom just hearing. And it was a lot of fun. And then after that, we had dinner together, and then we had dessert together. And Natalie's like, wow, this is the first time I've seen you spend this much money. So yeah, this is the New Tofu Gang. And actually, on December 31st, we had a mock chemistry exam. And me, Grant, Natalie, Oliver, we had lunch together. And then we rushed over there. We were late, and we panicked. But that was some good experience, too. So that's New Tofu Gang. January 17th, we have our final biology SBA. SBA is school-based assessment. It is it's like a project, but essentially we have to draw two diagrams. A diagram of an ovary, a mammalian ovary, and another diagram of a cross-section of pollen grain. Not really pollen grain. Anthers. And there were pollen grains inside. Yeah. So, we had to draw, and these drawings, okay, they're not like, oh, school work, you know? They actually count in the DSEs, so they're really, really important. I spent a lot of time drawing, and other people saw it, and they're like, wow, it's pretty bad. And I got upset. So I kept on drawing. I erased the whole thing, and I kept drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing. Everyone's drawing is so damn good. Everyone's drawing is so fine and detailed and beautiful. I got so mad. I slapped the table. I slapped myself like 10 times. I jumped on top of the table, crawled under the table, and I kept on drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing. And it was exhausting. I got so mad, and people thought I turned insane, when in fact I'm just super duper angry. You can see my drawing here. Knife to the brain. Selena and Suki is like, oh god, what's going on? And I just want to die. Alright, so we will wrap up Form 6 recap today. So, let's talk about the last normal day of school, which is on January 21st, I believe. I gotta go back. That is right, January 21st. Regret is like a knife that never leaves your body. If only I could jump back in time, may I finally arrive at happiness. That's what I wrote. So, it's the last day. It's the last normal day of school, meaning that it is the last day that we're going to take classes in the secondary school. And after this, it would be Chinese New Year break, and then afterwards, originally we were supposed to take the mock exam, but because of the virus, the exam is canceled. Okay. And then afterwards, after the exam, which didn't happen, we were going to study for the DSEs for a few months, and then we're going to have the DSEs for an entire month, and then that's it for my school life. So this is the last normal school day, and what happened is that nothing happened. Almost nothing happened. So I want to talk to Mary again. I felt very, very, very accomplished after I spoke to Mary on the Christmas party day, except how would I stop after that? You know, if I have a chance to continue on, have a conversation with Mary, I definitely would. So I want to speak to her again. And I actually tried. After school, when I was about to leave, I saw Selena and Mary, and I think Suki was nearby as well, and I asked Selena, where is Oliver? Because everybody asks that question. And then Mary looks at me and says nothing, and Selena's like, I don't know. Anyways, that didn't happen on January 21st, but it happened anyways, so there's that. Anyways, on January 21st, I wanted to stay after school. I don't want to immediately go back home, unlike a lot of the people in Bean Gang. People in Carrot Gang, like Olivia and Zara, they all stormed back home and just rest, like a bunch of losers. But I don't. I want to hang out with people, because I want to socialize. I want to live my last days in happiness and peace. So, Natalie was still in the computer room because she had to do her project thing, computer science, ICT SBA, and Grant was waiting for her, and Grant was playing volleyball with Potato Gang, so I waited around, and then afterwards, oh shoot, that's not even what happened. Okay, anyways, I'm getting super duper confused, but there was one day where, after school, Natalie had to do her computer science SBA, ICT SBA, and Grant was waiting for her, and when I was about to leave, I tried to speak to Mary again, asking where's Oliver. Mary didn't reply, just looked at me, but Selena said I don't know, and then I returned back to school and just waited for Natalie, but that didn't happen on January 21st. Instead, what happened was similar, but totally different. On January 21st, I also wanted to speak to Mary, but obviously I failed. And then what happened was that Selena, I was really sad on that day. I stood on the corridor and I looked out. Again, Asian high schools are different from American high schools or European high schools in that they're just one building. So there are different floors, and the corridor, it's not indoors, it's outdoors kinda, so we can look out and we can look at the outside world. So I was just looking down and I saw kids walking into the school, elementary school kids, primary school kids, and I thought to myself, maybe one of them will have a school life similar to mine, and then the cycle of sadness and pain and suffering will just repeat itself over and over again until the foreseeable future. And I felt really sad because of that. And yeah, and then Selena walked past me, and Selena saw that I'm really sad looking, and Selena's like, hey, and I'm like, what? And then she's just gone. That happened, and then afterwards, I watched Potato Gang play volleyball again, and Kingsley was there, and Kingsley was like an anime protagonist basically. And then afterwards, me and Grant, we walked all the way to a nearby mall in order to meet up Tyrus and Natalie, who are having a very long talk. And Tyrus and Natalie, they're like two intellectuals. They always meet up with one another in order to talk about politics, the society, as well as personal, deep stuff, secrets, you know. And then afterwards, me, Grant, Tyrus, Natalie, we all went to a little tea shop to buy tea and drink some tea. I spent $20 for a mango yogurt drink, and then afterwards, me, Grant, and Natalie, we went back home on the same bus, and that is pretty much the last day. So, pretty much this is it. But there is more to the story, of course, if you have seen my school update videos. So, after the last normal school day, we have before the DSEs. Now, I have made 9 super duper long videos on what happened before the DSEs, and it's basically me updating what am I doing today, my thoughts today, all that stuff. And for the first month, so after January 21st, we had to stay at home and study and do revision until we had to go back to school to retrieve our exam license for the DSEs. And on March 9th, we went back to school for the exam license. And then because the DSEs are postponed again on April 17th, we had to go back to school again for the exam license. And in between these dates, for most of the time, for me, I stayed at home and studied and carrying on a very depressing and boring life. But occasionally, Leo and Pink would invite me to their place, and we would hang out a little bit, maybe play some video games, no, we didn't play video games. We hung out together and studied together. We studied, okay? We studied. We didn't play video games. I'm serious. We actually did. I mean, come on, it's Leo. It's Leo. Of course well, Leo doesn't have to study. I mean, Leo has 1000 IQ, but Pink studies a lot, okay? Maybe too much. Yeah. And so on March 3rd, it's been 42 days since I have seen my schoolmates face to face in real life, and Leo and Pink invited me to their place. And then for 3 or 4 more times, I went to Leo and Pink's place to study chemistry, and they would print mock papers for me to do, and we would time it, and it would be really cool. So on March 3rd, we went back to school, but because of the virus, this is a very strange arrangement because I'm in A class, 6A, so we go there at 9 p.m. For 6B, they go there at 11 p.m. And so we go there by 9 and we leave at 10. 6B go there at 11 and leave by 12. 6C go there by 1 p.m. and leave at 2 p.m., you know, so on and so forth. So my dream of speaking to Mary once again is broken again because there is no way I am able to see, let alone speak to Mary with this arrangement. And the same arrangement goes for the next time I go back to school on April 17th, where yes, I'm able to see people like Natalie and Grant and Nick and speak to them maybe a little bit. However, not a single chance I meet Mary. So it's still very depressing, and on these 2 days pretty much nothing had happened. However, one thing for sure is that my feeling of being abandoned and ignored has so diminished. Like, even though I'm not like super popular at that point, and right now, like, I still don't have a lot of friends, I'm still always missing out on things, but people actually voluntarily start conversations with me. And this is a really, really strange feeling. Wait, you want to speak to me? You're being nice to me? And treating me like a normal human being? That is odd. That is rare. And I love it. I love that feeling. I mean, again, it's not great, but it's certainly a huge improvement upon my social life back in the days, you know, back in Form 3 and Form 4. And in between April 17th and April 25th, I did not leave my apartment all that much. I stayed at home, and every single day I would do 2 past papers, like full past papers, and I would spend many hours just studying, reading my notes, doing papers. I made several videos where I just talk about every single thing I've learned in the syllabus, condensed, and it took me like many hours. And I think before the chemistry exam, or somewhere during the exam periods, my top number of hours studied is 9, around 9, I think almost 10. So I studied for almost 10 hours a day, which for me is a lot. Maybe for some people in South Korea or Japan, maybe that's not that many, but 10 hours a day studying is actually very exhausting, and it's very, very tiring. But this is the motherfucking DSEs, okay? This is the exam that decides your future and your fate. This is not to be ignored, okay? Maybe in the USA exams don't matter that much. I don't know why I'm always saying this, like, maybe in the USA, maybe in Canada as well, maybe in Europe, maybe in Africa. I really don't know, but exams mean a lot, okay? Like, not only do you not want to upset your parents, and in my case, my parents are pretty chill as far as my academic performance goes, so that's a cool thing. But ultimately, first of all, this DSEs really decide your fate and your future, because if you do poorly in the DSEs and the universities won't, you know, let you go in, then you cannot really get a job or a well-paid job, so you can't really raise your family or have a stable financial situation, so your life is gonna suck. Okay? But if you do really, really well in the DSEs, a lot of universities will tell you to get in, and then you're going to have a really well-paid job, you're going to be very popular and rich, and you're going to have a really nice family. So the DSEs, they're really, really important. But not only that, I think for me it boils down to integrity. I have studied for the past 18 years of my life, and this exam is going to decide it all. So why would I let all this hard work to waste, you know? Of course I have to give my all and just get a good result because I deserve it. So I worked pretty hard. Now, am I going to say that I worked the hardest possible? Did I give all? No. I'm gonna admit it, no. I could have studied even more. I could have worked even harder, okay? And also the fact that I started really, really like seriously studying at around March, which is really, really late, by the way. A lot of people are already studying hard since January, but in January I didn't really have time, and for a good chunk of February I just didn't do anything because I wanted to rest. And I was lazy, sloth, okay? But I should have studied harder, that is true. So, from April 25th to May 11th, I had 16 exams, I think, 16, 17 exams. So we have 4 exams in Chinese, except one of them is canceled, so 3, and then originally 4 exams in English, but one of them is canceled, so it's 3. So it's reading, writing, listening, plus integration. Reading, writing, plus integration for both languages. And then we got Maths 1, the long questions, Maths 2, which is the multiple choice questions. And then we got Physics 1, the core physics, Physics 2, the elective physics, aka the elective chapters. We have 4 big chapters to choose from, and each chapter worth 20 marks, and we only have to do 2 of them. And our teacher, Mr. Thompson, chose energy and medical physics, but B class chose atomic physics and energy, so we can do different chapters, and the overall mark is 40. And then for chemistry, we have chemistry core and chemistry electives. We have analytical chemistry and industrial chemistry, because these 2 are the 2 easier chapters out of the 3. The other is material chemistry, which sucks. And then we have biology core and biology electives. Out of the 4, we got microbiology, homeostasis, ecology, and biotechnology. And for A class, we chose ecology and biotechnology. But a lot of people in A class who doesn't understand biotechnology really well, like, what are all these nucleotide bases? Like, why is it cut like this, and why is it combined like this? How does all these mRNA and tRNA work? Well, guess what? You can choose ecology. So some people just chose ecology because if you want to study ecology, it's more about memorizing than it is about understanding the concept. And I hate memorizing, so I chose biotechnology, of course. So again, 4 questions, each giant question worth 20 marks, and we have to choose 2 out of the 4, and the overall mark is 40 for the paper. And then we got LS, LS1, and LS2. LS2 is elective as well, except there are no set topics. We have to read. There are 3 different questions, and for each question we have to write 2 essays, and we need to pick 1 out of the 3, and the overall mark is also 20. So I think For the DSEs overall, I did pretty well. It's actually pretty satisfying. Except, am I going to say that it's great? Not at all. In fact, my DSE results is a little bit worse than I've expected, especially on the biology department, but I think I did well in the biology papers, except what really fucked me over is the SPAs. It's the drawings that I did at school, the SPAs. In the physics paper too, I messed up a lot, but I still got a 4 out of 7, which is actually really satisfying, for me anyways. 4 out of 7, but actually it's level 1. First of all, U means you failed. Level 1 means you suck and still fail. 2 is also fail, okay? But U is straight up disqualified. So 1 is failed. Level 2 is also failed, but slightly better. 3, you just passed. 4 means you're okay. 5 means you're pretty good. 5 star means you're pretty great. 5 star means you're fucking master. So, yeah. Again, physics 2, I messed up, especially on the whole nuclear plant part. I did not study that part, and the entire question is based off of nuclear fusion and nuclear fission. I did not study that for some fucking reason, and I was panicking. Maths 1, I did fuck up a little bit, but Maths 2, I tried so hard. I was basically a maniac at that point, and I'm sure everyone else became a maniac, and I was just doing maths, calculating super fast. I was shaking, panicking. I was breathing super fast. I was super concentrated, and my note paper, they give you a blank A4 paper so that you can, you know, draw diagrams and try to figure things out. Paper 2 is multiple choices, so 45 multiple choices within 75 minutes. But it's extremely difficult, and it progressively gets worse and worse and worse. And I tried really, really hard, and the results is not bad, but also not that great. Chemistry is not that bad. I fucked up on English listening because I didn't bring batteries for my radio, because each student needs to bring their own radio and their own earphones, 2 ringed earphones. If it's 3 ringed, they will disqualify you, because 3 ringed means your earphones may consist of a microphone, which means there's a possibility that you can cheat, so only 2 ringed. And I forgot to bring my batteries, so they have to deduct my overall score by 1%. For Chinese, actually not bad. You know, I usually suck at Chinese, and even though the first part of the Chinese reading paper has 3 parts. One part is classical Chinese, so classical Chinese passages that date all the way back to 2000 BC, Confucius, all that stuff, and then all the way to Song Dynasty. So the classical passages that we have already studied. And then part 2 will be a passage that we never studied before, and it's modern Chinese, so in Chinese that we understand. And part 3 is classical Chinese, and a classical Chinese passage that we've never read before. Honestly, parts 2 and 3, for me, it's not that bad. Part 1, I fucked up a little bit, but it's alright. For paper 2 writing, I actually did pretty well. I picked an open question rather an argumentative essay, because argumentative essay requires really strong examples, and I just don't have any. And then the other one is feelings passages, aka a story-based / description-based passage. And they are difficult because you need to be really good at, you know, vocabulary and sentence structures in the language, and I'm not really good at that. But at the end, I wrote a story, which I think is pretty great. English writing, I fucking nailed it. I fucking nailed the English writing. I wrote a horror story. There are 2 parts. One part is the compulsory part, where every single student has to write a review for a dim sum restaurant. And then the second part is that out of 9 questions, we can choose 1. So some people chose to do a report, some people chose to do an article, but given that it's me, I chose to write a story, which is the riskiest question. And I wrote a horror story that makes no sense. A mysterious, suspenseful horror movie. and I got a 5-star star for this story. Fuck yes, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, very crazy shit, man. What happened on May 11th is I also saw Mary before the biology exam happens, and at first I thought, come on, no way is it her. And then turns out it's her, and I'm like, fuck. And at that point, I'm super nervous. And she spoke to me, she said 2 things to me. Hey. And I said, hey. She said hi first. I didn't say hi to her first. Like, she came up to me, and she's the first one to say hi. Or hey. And then I said, hey. And then I asked, are there any other people from the same school who is going to also be in this venue? And then she says Selena and Oliver. Because we don't go back to our own school to do those exams. Because this exam is citywide, where all the Form 6 students in the entire city have to partake at the same time. And the government is the ultimate organizer of the exams. So what happens is that we are randomized. We are randomly placed into different schools around our district. Our district, because we have to give the government our address, so they know which district I live in, which is Hong Kong Island East. I live in the eastern part, the northeastern part of the Hong Kong Island. So all the schools that I go to, and I go to different schools for each exam, all the schools I go to are also somewhere nearby in the Hong Kong Island Central or Hong Kong Island East. And we are all randomized. Of course, I'm gonna meet with a few people that I know, but every time it's different. And so every time I go to these exam venues, not only do I not know what's gonna happen to me during the exams, but I also won't know who will I meet. Like what people that I know of will also show up. So we're not gonna wear school uniform. We're gonna wear our casual clothes. We can choose what we wear to these exam venues. Yeah, that's basically it. And I saw Mary, and that's like pure luck. And if you've seen my video, it's over, DSE day 17. I cried really hard because the pressure is being released. And also the fact that I saw Mary. And after the biology exam finished, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna celebrate it by speaking to Mary again. And then Mary's just gone. She just walked away with Oliver, and I just cried so hard. I mean, Oliver's a Greek dude. So, the DSEs are over. Now we enter the epilogue. For the first 2 weeks or so, actually 10 days-ish, I still did school update videos like the aftermath. And on May 25th, Natalie told me something about Mary, and I'm like, oh my god, that's crazy. And I started overthinking, and I talked, and then Natalie, Cedric, and Grant convinced me to just give up speaking to Mary, because we all know that it's impossible, and I agree with them. So for 1 week, I just cut myself off from my classmates. I didn't speak, I didn't show up on Instagram, and Natalie's like, what? Why am I so silent? So for an entire week, I just self-isolated, and I stopped making school update videos, and now it's called Thoughts Update, because not only would I talk about, you know, again, my school life, which is still the main thing, but also I would talk about college, I would talk about my short films, I would talk about my part-time jobs, and other stuff like, I don't know, music, cooking, whatever, just thoughts. So there's that. But school is basically over at that point. Nothing important happened. I got my part-time job, and I did the job a lot for an entire week, almost every single day in the week, and it was really tiring and exhausting. And then the virus, the third wave of coronavirus happened, and my job is canceled basically. And while a lot of people still hang out, you know, especially for people like Suki, Selena, Oliver, and Russell, they still hang out a lot. I only hang out with my schoolmates 7 times between May 12th and July 22nd. 7 times only. This is 2 months, more than 2 months, and I only hang out with people 7 times. So it was boring, it was depressing. And then originally there's this graduation dinner, which I'm super duper excited about because this is the only chance that I can speak to Mary ever again. And also everyone's gonna show up in the dinner with fancy suits, fancy dresses, and we're gonna party. It's going to be the best night of my life. However, because of the virus, the dinner is pretty much canceled. So this is very, very depressing. But I'm not sure. Maybe it will happen again. Like maybe the graduation dinner will be de-canceled if the virus situation gets better. Who knows? But I spent a lot of time designing my dress, looking for my suit, and bought my suit. Again, I hang out with people 7 times, and each time it's also Leo and Pink. Twice with Nick, and also twice with Harry, twice with Adam, but each time it's also Leo and Pink. And for most of the time, it's just me going to Leo and Pink's place, which is nearby, and play mahjong, because that's all we do. We play mahjong. Sometimes we would go to Nick's place and we would play PS4 or Osu on the computer, and sometimes we would just talk. And it's really nice, though it's been a very, very, very long time since I've actually seen Natalie in real life. The last time I've seen Natalie is actually May 8th, before the physics exam. And it's funny because I and Natalie, our exam venues are different, but are really close by. So I walked past Natalie and Betsy and I said hi and then bye, and then I just left. They didn't even have time to react, and it was hilarious. And then we have July 22nd, the DSE Results release day, which I've made an entire video on in my school update videos playlist. Check that out. And again, Chinese 3, okay. English 5 double star, great. Maths 5, kind of disappointing, but what more can you ask for? Physics 4, alright. LS 4, expected. Chemistry 4, also expected. Biology 4, kind of upset, kind of disappointed, but whatever, what's done is done. On that day, I actually saw Mary, but again, I didn't speak to her because she's 12 million miles away, and I thought that Mary will speak to Oliver, so I stick with Oliver, but Mary didn't speak to Oliver at all on that day, so I was just really, really disappointed. Like, okay, why didn't Mary speak to Oliver? And then afterwards, me, Oliver, and some other people from Potato Gang, we bought some tea, and then we just went back home. And ever since, I have never seen my schoolmates in real life again. And then, fast forward to now. Now, I'm speaking in front of my phone, wrapping up my last page of diary, and that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. It's actually really crazy. 6 years, full of ups and downs, mostly downs, all the way since I was a socially anxious, paranoid boy, to wars, fights, social hierarchy, to misery, feeling abandoned, feeling ignored, feeling useless, feeling like a loser, to glimpses of hopes, you know, like Form 4 LAD. The way we partied on that night was really fun. Or the other time, me, Jordana, Natalie, and Leo and Cedric, we had pizza together. Or the other time we had sushi together. There were some highlights, certainly. And then there were big moments as well. Jordana passing out in Form 1. Again, the war and the persecution in Form 2. Pink's amnesia on Form 4. Jeffrey trying to prank me, putting a piece of graphite in my hand in Form 5. The protests in Form 5 and Form 6 when we became infamous, and the arrests. A lot of ups and downs. If my school life is a game, I have lost. I have lost the game. I have to admit it. As much as I don't want to admit it, I have to admit it. I have lost the game. I didn't know how to play the game when the game has begun, and when I finally knew how to play the game was already over. And that is the game of socializing. I tried really hard to make friends, but I failed like 90% of the times, and it had put me in so much pain. And also, for a good chunk of my first 4 years of secondary school, it's all blurry, hazy. I always miss out on things, so I always hear rumors. I always see things happening from afar. I always overhear conversations. So I always know half of everything, but only half. And I'm not an all-knowing God. Even though I am the detective, I'm not a good detective at all. I'm not very good at my job. In fact, Natalie knows so much more than I do. But I guess at the same time, school changed me completely. Before 2014, my personality is completely different. I'm very superstitious, very scared, cowardly, and I have no style. I just want to be a good person who's also smart, and that's all I want to be. But now I have a style, and I have a sense of what I want to be, what kind of person I want to be. And I think most importantly, after going to secondary school, I learned so much more about society and what people can be, what people are capable of. I didn't even know that people can be this evil, this twisted, or this smart, or this interesting before I even entered secondary school. But after I entered the school, I've seen so much, I've learned so much. School has slowly become the biggest thing in my life, and the thing that I care about the most. And it's not even the assignments or the exams or the projects that really hook me the most. It's the people there. The people is what really interests me the most. People like Mary, Natalie, Jordana, people like Jeffrey, Keith, Leo, Pink, Kingsley. It's these people that really make me go, wow, school is a land full of wonders. It's full of mysteries and suspense. It's full of secrets, layers on top of layers, people's connections, a network of lies and secrets, and it's beautiful, actually. In a sense, you can say that humanity is ugly. The human species is flawed, and we always fight against one another over stupid things, and because of that, we are not a very good species at all. But at the same time, you have to admit the human species is really goddamn beautiful because of that, exactly. I mean, from all the chaos, from all the hatred, the anger, you can see people holding hand in hand, surviving together. And also, again, the protests, you can see that we all have one common interest, one common goal, and that is to stand up against police brutality and also government corruption. And you can see that when people are united, it can be so beautiful. And even when they're not united, the way people fight, different people speak, different people fight, different people have different ways of doing things, it's just very gorgeous, and it intrigues me so much. And I guess I'm just gonna leave it at that. While it's full of shame and regrets in that I could have made so many more friends. I could have had a better school life if I've joined things like the Model United Nations, if I have joined being an announcer in the sports day and the aquatic meet, if I have joined gangs of friends. I would party so much more, dinner so much more. If I'm more active, I could have been to the beach when all those crazy things happened. But I didn't. Still, nonetheless, this school had changed my life. The way I view things, the way I see things, it had changed. And I began to appreciate chaos as well. And it's not that I like bad things, you know. It's not like that I have become edgy, you know. Even though in the middle of my school life, there's a period of time where I'm pretty edgy, but ultimately, I have changed as a person. I have ascended to a different level, and I am, I guess, right now I am transitioning to another era of my life, and I can't let go. I can't. This secondary school life is already a part of me, and letting go would be the most painful thing ever, and I am nowhere near ready to let go, and I think that's going to be true for the rest of my life, and this is going to haunt me until the last day I die. When I'm on my deathbed, I'll still be thinking about this, and that's all I'm going to say. I want to thank all the people who I've met, all my friends, all my enemies, all the people who are neither friends or enemies, the people I love, the people I hate, the people who helped me, the people who tried to bring me down. I want to thank each and one of them. And I want to thank Cedric. I want to thank Natalie. I want to thank Bernice, Jordana, Linda, Jeffrey. I want to thank Mary. I want to thank Leo and Pink, Kingsley, and yeah, Queenie, Anne, Ernest, Nick, and Tom, and yeah, just thank you all for being so patient by watching my very long and not entertaining videos at all, and thank you for being with me for such a long time. And I thank the school for giving me such memorable and just powerful experience. I thank you all, and I hope the next part of my life will be equally as interesting. I just hope so. Cheers.